Hello everyone, welcome to my human design channel. My name is Juji and this is HD by Z. If you're new here, this is a space where we analyze celebrity charts, talking mostly about their relationships and seeing what we can learn through their design. So today we're going to talk about Ariana Grande. She's been at the center of a very public scandal about how she cheated on her husband with a married man. His name is Ethan Slater. And because of everything that was happening, I really wanted to take a look at her chart, and I did, and there's a lot to discuss. Before we get started, though, I do want to remind you that all of the ways to work with me will be in the show notes below. I have a retreat coming up called the Sisterhood of the Rose Retreat in Mount Shasta, July 12th through 15th. Check that out if you're interested in coming to work with me in person. You can also click on my website where you'll see that I do readings for individuals, couples, I do coaching, I do speaking. As a matter of fact, I'll be in LA at the beginning of April. So if you're in that area, I would love for you to come and meet me. I'll be doing a talk about what else? Human design. And I also run a community for women online called The Beehive, which is a group coaching platform and learning space. It's a wonderful place for us to get together in a group chat, a weekly Zoom call. All of my workshops are available for you to binge whenever you want. It's a great way to support your human design experiment. All right, so back to Ariana Grande. So the Cliff's notes of this situation are that Ariana Grande was married. She had an affair with her also married co-star who had recently had a baby, and then wrote a song about it called Yes and, in which she basically told everybody, shame on you for caring. Why do you care whose D I ride? Which obviously we care because you're famous. Otherwise, nobody would. So this is really her defense, right? She's not taking ownership of what she did. In fact, she's pointing the blame back at us. And because she was doing this, because of all of this deflecting, I really wanted to take a look at her chart. I wanted to see if perhaps the guy, Ethan Slater, that she cheated with is something of note. I couldn't find accurate birth time for him. And then I realized this is really all about Ariana. So let's take a look at her chart. All right, so this is Ariana Grande. She is a projector. She is splenic authority, split definition, a 2-4 profile on the right angle cross of service. So a couple of things that were really noteworthy when I first saw this chart is the fact that Ariana has what we call the trifecta of not self themes. In fact, Ra Uruhu, the man who brought us human design, used to call this the Heartbreak Hotel. She has the open ego center, the open solar plexus, and an open G. And inherently, these things are not wrong or bad about your chart. This is where your potential wisdom lies. But the mind interprets and filters this in a very specific way. So the not self theme of the open ego is wanting to prove. The not self theme of the open solar plexus is wanting to avoid confrontation and truth. And the not self theme of an open G center is feeling lost and looking for love and direction, potentially in all the wrong places. So these are the top ranked not self themes, and we will discuss in a bit why this might have played a role in what she did. But I also want to talk about gate 59. I don't usually go to the line level, but I think it's really important for us to recognize that she has gate 59, the gate of sexuality, in the third line, which is all about trial and error. So there's an aspect of her design which is all about experimenting with, making mistakes with intimacy and relationships and what it means to have openness in a relationship, what it means to break down the barriers between herself and somebody else. Not to mention, she has this open sacral center. The sacral as an energy is associated with our reproductive system. And if you are open sacral being, anyone who isn't a generator type is an open sacral. It's really about understanding that sexuality doesn't necessarily belong to you. Not to say that projectors can't have and enjoy sex. I have had projectors that are sexual partners that have been very good at what they do, especially being these penetrating aura types. I mean, what a description, right? You're being penetrated aurically and physically. That's pretty intense, right? So, sexuality is always going to be a dilemma for her, especially having this gate 59 in line 3 in an open sacral. All right, so what is the lesson here? Why am I talking about Ariana Grande? Why am I talking about this messy affair? Why are we getting into this? Well, I truly believe that affairs happen more often than we know and more often than we talk about because we as a society have created so much shame around this. And I feel like what I want to do is talk about my experience for the very first time. I wrote about this in an Instagram post probably over a year ago, but I've never spoken publicly about the fact that I too had an extramarital affair in my first marriage, and it lasted for a long time. And I don't want to be vague about it. It was about 4.5 years long, which is a very, very long time to hold such a secret and to be in a situation that you just can't talk about with anybody else. I think movies and TV shows make extramarital affairs seem really like hot and steamy. And in the very beginning, they are that excitement, that aliveness that you feel is really potent, and just the adrenaline of it all is really addictive. But carrying on something like that extensively is excruciatingly painful. It chips away at your soul. It takes from you your sense of worth on so many different levels. Keeping that secret, knowing that you're hurting somebody. In my case, I wasn't just hurting my husband. The person I was having an affair with was also married. So, two wrongs do not make a right in this case. And I had convinced myself, well, I had to convince myself of a lot of things because in order to be able to live with yourself through something like that, it requires a lot of mental gymnastics. It takes a lot of excuse making in your own mind to be able to cope with something like that. And once I was on the other side of it, it became very important to me to discover and really dig deep into my own psyche to understand why I would do something like that. And I came to a number of different conclusions, which is something that I feel is very much in line with what Ariana Grande is doing right now. It takes an incredibly insecure person to do something like that. And the reason I say that is because it didn't seem like enough for me to have the love of my husband. And we can sit here and debate whether or not that was a good relationship or not. Clearly, it wasn't aligned because he is now my ex, and he did end up finding out about the affair after our divorce. So he not so politely requested that I never contact him again, which I do not blame him for. But that insecurity, that hole inside of you that you are trying to fill with somebody else's love is really quite profound Because when you realize that you have to source that love within yourself, I talked about this in my previous video about J-Lo recognizing that she has to do this inner child work, which I have done, getting to the core of the fact that you do not feel worthy of love. And so you need multiple men to express love to you. And then there's a third factor, which is the fact that you're taking or trying to. I was trying to. Apparently, Ariana succeeded in taking a man from another woman. And this is potentially the hardest part to admit, is that as women, we are conditioned to compete with one another. We are conditioned as a society to believe that there is a lack, whatever that is. There's a lack of money, so we have to compete for that. There's a lack of love, so we have to compete for that. There's a lack of men, so we have to compete for them. And that idea, that deep conditioning of believing that you are here to compete with your fellow woman, and what better way to prove to yourself, right? She has this open ego that wants to prove. What better way to prove to yourself that you are worthy than taking a man from another woman? It's not enough to just have a man. Anybody can have a man. What if you took him from someone else? Wouldn't that just prove to you and everybody else how special you are, how amazing you are, that a man would leave his wife and recently born baby for you? I mean, it sounds gross because it kind of is, but I understand it. I understand it. So for everybody who is wondering why she would leave such a hot guy or cheat on such a hot guy with somebody who is really not that good looking, you're missing the point. It's not that he was so hot that she just couldn't control herself. It was that there was a prize to be won. She wanted to win, and she did. I bet you she thought there was going to be some sort of gratification at the end of all of that. And I would venture to guess that she is very disappointed, because when you are so desperate for love, when you are so desperate for recognition, Ariana Grande is a projector. Her life force comes from recognition, basically. We talked a little bit about this with Taylor Swift. And you might be thinking to yourself, well, she's an international superstar. Like, what more recognition could you want? Well, once you have a taste of it, you always want more. It's an addiction, just like everything else. Love can become addictive when you feel like you're in such a deficit that you need to get it from a source outside of yourself. That's why we were talking about how J-Lo went to Love Addicts Anonymous, because she truly could see how chasing these different relationships, no matter how dysfunctional, became her priority over taking care of herself. And then add on to Ariana Grande this open solar plexus that just doesn't want to deal with any of it. She wants to avoid the confrontation. She did do an interview with her friend on a podcast and basically didn't address any of the things that are being written about her, or why she even wrote this song, which was pretty transparent. And I can only imagine how much shame she is experiencing. If years ago it came out publicly that I had had a long-standing affair during my marriage, I would have died of shame. It's only because I was able to work through all of the nuances and take radical responsibility for my role in what happened that I'm able to sit here and talk to you all about it without it having a charge or any sort of discomfort for me. I know that what I did came from a place of woundedness. And that's exactly what I'm saying about Ariana is we can sit here in judgment of what she did because we know that it took probably a lot of lies to carry that on as co-stars. Ethan Slater's wife had said that she came over and played with their baby and how much of a fool she felt when she found out what was truly going on. And I'm sure that was a huge blow to Ariana's very fragile sense of self. Not to mention that she has this channel of judgment in her chart. And I did a video quite a few episodes back about a group of celebrities in Hollywood who had all taken their lives and who all happened to have this channel in their chart. Because what ends up happening with this channel of judgment, which is really designed to help you judge the collective, see what's not working, and course correct in a healthy way. But that judgment can very easily turn in on you. It can very easily be pointed back at yourself. So even though we're all judging her, trust me when I say Ariana's probably judging herself more harshly than we ever could. And it's just unfortunate that she isn't able to face this head on. I mean, she's relatively young. There's a lot that she still needs to learn. In this podcast, she even mentions her Saturn return. She says her Saturn has just returned. So she understands that she's in this very transitional phase of life. Thank goodness for that. I mean, I wish I had known what was going on in my Saturn return. But alas, that wasn't in the cards for me. And yet she still is going about all of this trying to pretend like she is the innocent victim of the media and that there is nothing for you to see here. That's her way of avoiding that truth and keeping up the appearance that she's fine. I guarantee you she is not fine. I guarantee you that there is a lot going on underneath the surface and behind closed doors. And it's a real kind of come to Jesus moment for most people after they've gone through something like that, especially if you are somebody who wants to understand your own pathology. That's what I needed to do. I needed to understand all of the reasons I did this because it felt out of character. Even while I was cheating, I used to say, I'm not a cheater to the person that I was cheating with. That's the irony of ironies. It didn't feel aligned in any way. I am very much a monogamous person. I very much believe in commitment. And so doing something that went so far against my true nature and doing it for such a long time really made me have to look at myself. And I am now very grateful for that experience. I don't look at it through the lens of shame and regret. I look at it as the source of wisdom that I have collected. Like I have said to you guys before, I don't sit here talking about relationships because I did everything right in my past. Quite the contrary, as you now can see. It was a long road full of tears, full of self-doubt, full of a lot of suffering. It was a lot of suffering. If I could say anything to my past self who was going through that, I wouldn't even say anything. I would just hug her. She just needed a hug. She needed guidance. She felt very lost. And I Wish I could hug Ariana Grande, to be honest, because I am sure that this is really something that she's grappling with. And I really hope that she does find that guidance that I was able to tune into through human design. Ariana, if you're watching this, call me. All right, guys, I think that's it for today. Thank you so much for being here. If you have any comments or questions about her chart, about the story I just told, please put it in the chat below. If you want to nominate another couple for me to do analysis for, or even a celebrity on their own, just like I did today, I would love to hear from you. Thank you guys so much for watching. I love you so much. Until next time, ciao for now.